Good evening to all. We are fortunate to have Brother B.D. Tendulkar ji, who is the National Lecturer of Theosophical Society Indian Section. And today's topic that he will take is a brief review on the commentary on the Secret Doctrine, the Divine Plan by Geoffrey Barborka. So I'll request Brother Tendulkar ji to please start his lecture. Tendulkar ji.
At the outset, I thank Shankar Lodge and the Delhi Theosophical Federation for giving me this opportunity to speak on this important topic relating to secret doctrine, the divine plan. Secret doctrine is considered as magnum opus of the theosophical teachings for the modern world. Madame Blavatsky has brought to humanity the ancient wisdom which is scattered all over in different religious scriptures, philosophies, and also the sciences. That's why she has also given it a subtitle that it is a synthesis of religion, philosophy, and science. And the book which I have taken up for study of secret doctrine is the Divine Plan by Geoffrey Barborka. He is a person who conducted secret doctrine study classes for many years and has a first-hand experience of the difficulties faced by students of secret doctrine, and also perhaps because of his long experience and exercise to convey the teachings contained in secret doctrine to the serious students of theosophy, he has developed an insight with the help of which he attempted to overcome difficulties faced by the students in understanding secret doctrine. He participated in the summer school at Wheaton in a symposium entitled Approach to Study of Secret Doctrine. And after this program was over, many participants suggested him to write a commentary on secret doctrine so that students who find the teachings of secret doctrine little difficult to understand because of the abstract and obtuse nature of the teachings. And while writing the divine plan, he took into consideration the need of the students. He felt that the approach of H.P. Blavatsky was more from Platonic standpoint and not Aristotelian, which makes clear the need which he felt in understanding the secret doctrine not on the background of logical interpretation of the teachings given by HPB, but more from the point of view which is more intimately connected with affectionate feeling for the students of Theosophy. So his writings are less to display um, his capacity to understand secret doctrine, but more to enlighten the students who were really passionate, serious, and dedicated to understand the teachings which HPB placed after so much of effort, because she had collected all this knowledge from so many sources, known and perhaps unknown to the world at large. Therefore, approach was more intuitive than intellectual. There is another difference is that normally we proceed from known to unknown. That is, in case of perhaps theosophy or understanding of universe and man, as we know, secret doctrine consists of cosmogenesis and anthropogenesis. So the student wants to understand what is cosmos and how it came into being, what is man, how man evolved. And these questions are generally studied from the point of known to unknown. That means we start from the physical and try to go into the realm of unknown, which is subtler than the physical. And this is quite logical. But then we are perhaps constrained in our approach by the conditioned approach, which is a natural result of the level of consciousness with which we start our learning. Instead of that, if we begin from our origin or real nature, which we say divine, And if we try to understand that, then naturally a serious student is inclined to raise his consciousness to a level which is not confined to physical. Without being told, the student naturally, I think, attempts to imagine or visualize what could be those subtler levels of existence. And in the process, I think we transcend the limits to which our consciousness is confined. So it's a, I think, natural process which happens in study of the secret doctrine, or to a very great extent study of the divine plan also. Because in divine plan, um, Barborka has not anywhere allowed himself to take the freedom in any way to modify the teachings for the sake of simplicity or making it understandable by common readers. Only thing perhaps which he did was rearranging the material contained in the secret doctrine, which retains the intuitive nature of teachings and adds to that logical presentation of those teachings. What he probably did is what was scattered in various volumes of secret doctrine. There were two volumes in the beginning, and later on we find that there are almost 5, 6 volumes in which, in the recent edition of secret doctrine, these details are scattered, and students who are perhaps engrossed in their daily worldly life may not find time enough to go through these volumes, which contain thousands of pages together, and to bring together the references or facts, details pertaining to the same topic but scattered over thousands of pages, which is quite time consuming. And not only time consuming, but there may be very few students who have the patience and perseverance to continue their study for long, doing all this exercise of bringing together all details scattered over at a single or place. So that is another point which perhaps merits why we can prefer the divine plan as a reliable, authentic commentary on the teachings of sacred doctrine. Yes, in a sequential, logical manner, but without simplifying them and alter their nature which is perhaps purposefully suited to arouse intuitive understanding. So perhaps it serves the dual purpose that you can develop better intellectual understandings, and at the same time um, there is an attempt to go deeper, transcending the mind and trying to understand or realize things from the level of consciousness of the author. So it's an attempt to establish on invisible levels of consciousness a kind of dialogue or conversation with the author. And that is perhaps the only way to understand correctly, rightly, what the author has to convey. There are many citations which are given there, but those citations also are scattered, and therefore what is many times found necessary that when you study one citation, perhaps the citation which is closely connected with that, which has appeared in some other volume, which has been read at some other time, has been forgotten. And therefore, studying things in isolation perhaps gives us only a partial understanding of the topics. Therefore, for comprehensive understanding, this restructuring of various topics in the manner in which Geoffrey Barborka has attempted it in his The Divine Plan has been found quite beneficial by many students of Theosophy in understanding ancient wisdom. There are no doubt great authorities who have written authoritative books on ancient wisdom, including Annie Besant, Leadbeater, W.Q. Judge, Geoffrey Horson, and many others. We can mention even G. Purukar, Clara Ford, but I limit myself to mentioning all the authorities on ancient wisdom. And I only say that people read and should read different commentaries, but there is a possibility that while simplifying the abstruse subject, many times uh, the contents and the manner of presentation may undergo a change. A commentary may become an interpretation, which I think um, Barborka has strictly avoided. He has maintained the originality of the contents and only has rearranged, restructured the contents in a manner which is conducive to understanding a single topic, but in its completeness, fullness. And then we can relate one topic to other topic, and as we understand more and more topics fully, our ability to correlate them and to build a complete system or develop understanding of the whole system becomes quite easy. So, um, this does not indicate that we can give up studying original secret doctrine and read only the divine plan, because after all, original is original and it has its own um, qualities. As I said, it helps to establish that rapport or conversation or dialogue with the author. So that can be achieved only by studying the original. But when we are entering into an area totally unknown to us, perhaps those who can guide our journey uh, to bring us to the borders of that area and help us to get an entry into it is really um, advantageous for not only new students but also for those who are studying these things for a long time, because many persons have said without hesitation that it's really difficult for anyone, howsoever intelligent he may be, to understand secret doctrine just in single reading or one or two readings. It takes number of readings for anyone to understand the topic fully, and even then we may not understand it fully. It will always be a partial understanding, but at each attempt we feel that we have understood definitely something more than what we have understood so far. So that's an advantage in choosing a right commentary for our study. There are many things which are not easy to explain, where um, intuitive understanding is the only way to understand a author's mind, and many things perhaps are not perhaps fully even um, at the disposal of the author to convey to the readers because of various kind of limitations, including the stage of development at which these details are being released to the public, because this is perhaps for the first time that a bold attempt has been made by those who inspired HPB to disclose this secret doctrine as a public communication. Many times these things might have been conveyed in a one-to-one fashion by a master to a disciple. But in the form of secret doctrine, this attempt has been made in a general way, because even many of these details may be found in the letters from the masters of wisdom, but their masters had not allowed those to be published for public. They were essentially in the initial stages personal communications to AP Senate and many others. So the letters were published much later, after several decades of publication of secret doctrine, when the truths which were brought to the notice of the public were um, studied on a large scale and were found to be acceptable, even though they varied from various religious teachings, because that is one sensitive point, how far the readers um, who were quite at home with their religious teachings will readily accept the teachings of the secret doctrine, where they differ from the teachings of the respective religions. Here we also find that HPB had close communication with authorities from different walks of life, different fields, just as we find in case of J. Krishnamurti also. And um, in that, she had shown a considerable amount of authoritative understanding of um, progress made even in the field of physical science. If we go through various references she has quoted, or the denial of many of the statements of the um, scientists of those days in an authoritative manner, and which was without being herself an authority in that field. Her understanding was on the basis of her knowledge of occult science, not of physical science. But with her intuitive ability, she could correlate the occult sciences with physical sciences, and therefore could make meaningful analysis, comments on the statements made by many scientists. She has referred to Isaac Newton in those days, um, in respect of, say, um, seven elements, where Newton was referring to ether, um, and where she has made a very um, intelligent comment on what Newton had said. Newton had said that nature is a perpetual circulatory process. Why? Because there is generation of solids to fluids and vice versa, from fluids to solids, or from fixed to volatile and vice versa, from volatile to fixed, or from subtile to gross and from gross to subtiles. And HPB refers and says that there are seven elements, while what the science was talking was only about the fifth element. And there are numberless sub-elements. But they are all aspects only of one element. And the fifth element advocated by science is not ether, where ether is spelled as ether, but ether, aether. So this type of subtle difference which she could make on the discoveries of science on the basis of her understanding of the occult science is worth noting, and therefore anyone who makes a commentary on an authority of this nature of HBB should be have that equal competence to deal with the subject with the same kind of intuitive understanding and not only expertise of the knowledge but wisdom. And that we see in the way the divine plan has been put into the hands of the serious students of theosophy. Now, secret science deals with uh, various subjects, mainly the cosmogenesis and uh, anthropogenesis. But the basis of the subject um, has been put in the form of three fundamental propositions. Here, the Geoffrey Barborka has perhaps changed that type of presentation. And as I mentioned earlier, he perhaps curled out different laws and different doctrines underlying the divine plan which the secret doctrine has put before the world. Why has he done so? Because if we understand the source or the foundation on which the divine plan is based, and according to which the whole process of evolution will be guided, then it gives perhaps a bird's eye view to a student. As I mentioned earlier, to see from the highest level. It is like seeing from the mountain hill, top of the hill, all that is lying at the feet of the hill. So instead of going through the intricate details at the lower levels first and getting involved into those details, in this approach from the top to bottom or from the subtlest to the grossest relieves us of details which occupy our consciousness at lower levels and releases the consciousness free to grasp the underlying principles which govern or direct the plan of evolution, which is a divine plan. And that approach helps us to apply the knowledge of those laws, those doctrines, to all the details which we come across later on, so that we can test the correlation and the consistency of various facts and processes which we are going to study for comprehensive understanding of the divine plan. So, this is a question of the approach to the study of sacred doctrine, and it is, I think, a practical approach which has evolved. This in no way is a commentary on the um, extraordinary contribution which HPB has made to theosophy. But as I mentioned earlier, he chose the same approach as of HPB, the intimately affectionate Platonic approach in preference to Aristotelian approach in his commentary. Avoided interpreting in his own way, but understanding by bringing together the different statements, citations, explanations which HPB has given, but which are not at one place. All those things have been brought together. Therefore, we can go through divine plan much more easily, many times, even without referring to the index, because all those details have come at one place when we study the things. But at the same time, we can be selective in our study if we find many things in which we may not be deeply interested, which may be relevant but not essential for understanding of the subject. So, this approach is very practical for a man who has not um, time enough to go through 5, 6 volumes of Sacred Doctrine. Instead of that, one who prefers to first understand the whole thing in nutshell, but without missing what is essential for the exact correct understanding of the concepts, ideas which he has developed. Because this subject relates more to the conceptual understanding of many things relating to the divine plan, there are so many terms, so many words which we find apparently carrying the same meaning. So, Barborka has brought all such terms together. Like, say, we might, if we want to study, say, monad, then all things relating to the uh, emergence or emanation of monad, and then its journey through various kingdoms and its growth and development from one kingdom to another kingdom, and the contraction of consciousness during the stage of involution, and again the release and expansion or unfoldment of that consciousness during the journey upwards, first entering into the matter and then releasing from the limitations imposed upon it by matter. The whole process is very systematically and in an understandable manner has been presented at one place. And once a particular concept is clearly understood, all other things related to that are also better understood through study of any other thing related to that topic. So then we understand what is monadic essence, or we understand the concept of Atma Buddhi Manas. We understand what is Sutratma. We understand what is Jivatma. Various things which are closely related to the main topic monad. So that is a way we find in the study of the divine plan a developing deeper understanding of the subject dealt with by HPB in a fashion perhaps deliberately developed by her in order to change the mode of understanding a difficult subject or concept, where we rely mostly on our lower mind, the logical, systematic way of presentation, which is perhaps a style preferred by our present generation, where the emphasis is more on the working of the lower mind. But if we want to remove his dependence and insistence on the understanding of concrete things, it becomes an obstacle in understanding of the abstract things. Therefore, as I mentioned earlier, we have to develop both intellectual understanding as well as intuitive understanding. We must fully exhaust our intellectual capacities in order to understand difficult things. But there is a limit in understanding conceptual, abstruse things by the means of our intellectual abilities. It needs a complementary support from our intuitional faculties. Because the lower mind takes us only to the superficial understanding of what is apparent. But what is not apparent is sometimes more relevant and important than what is apparent. Apparent is always um, understood with illusion, Maya, and it is only the intuitive understanding which is free from the Mayavic understanding, which is always partial and superficial. Therefore, um, we have to go to the essence of things. And therefore, for example, in this divine plan, we first understand what is monadic essence. By understanding monadic essence, we can trace the presence of this essence in everything. The that presence may be felt at the highest level of his emergence or emanation, and may not be felt at the grossest level. But by developing an insight to see that presence in everything, in every kingdom of nature, not only in human kingdom, but in animal kingdom, in plant kingdom, in monadic kingdom. In other words, everything that is manifest. This develops a comprehensive understanding of things which are not only visible, but things invisible also. When we turn our attention elemental kingdoms, which are invisible, and then we also go beyond that. After all, visible and invisible are parts of manifestation. But what about unmanifest, which is the real existence of all that we see, that we feel, sense as real? Unreality of what we think real can be understood only when we understand the unmanifest, which underlies all that is manifest. So, developing this insight is perhaps the main purpose of sacred doctrine, and that is very well put into the structure of the divine plan. We start studying theosophy from that angle. What is the essence, rather than what is only the stuff which serves as a vehicle of the essence? To develop this essence oriented insight and outlook is perhaps the main purpose of the study of the sacred doctrine. So that helps us to become more sensitive to not only the things that exist, we have to know non existent along with what is existent. So that takes us to the teachings again of HPV, which she has explained in Voice of Silence. we are, or our consciousness is mostly centered around the existent things, that is, things which we understand with our senses. But what about non existent? Non existent from our limited um, consciousness, which is confined to the physical level. So it takes us to a higher level. HPB, if we see, has moved from a level of consciousness in those days when the Theosophical Society was established, when there was too much of influence of spiritualism, which is more focused or centered around our extrasensory perception, or going little beyond that, the psychic understanding of things like clairvoyance. So, in her presentation of Isis Unveiled, she led humanity to develop a new insight from spiritualism to spirituality. And from that, for that, she used spiritualism as a starting point, perhaps to make people understand the real difference between spiritualism and spirituality. And further, she also, um, through Voice of Silence, took us still further in developing understanding of perhaps importance of mysticism in her Voice of Silence, or even we can see it in the other various writings of HPB. Her presentations were to lead humanity to the truth, and she understood the importance of presenting it in different forms, appealing to the people at different levels of intellectual understanding, and finally to appeal to those who are on the verge of the borders of intellect and ready to enter the realm of intuition. So, um, if we study secret doctrine with the help of this comprehensive understanding of the divine plan, understanding of what the origin and the ultimate state of this journey of monad, or we can also see logos, the um, um, book very well brings out the principle of as above, so below, the relationship existing between the um, laws operating at the macro level and the same laws appropriately fashioned to apply at the micro level. This understanding also helps to understand the oneness of the variety which exists at the local level, at the micro level, and it leads us to understand that all variety is just an expression of unity at the physical level. So, truth is understood as a reflection of what is there, um, what we find as a reflection of that truth on the physical plane. So, the basic purpose of, I think, secret doctrine is to motivate people to understand the divine plan and to not only understand but to uh, use that understanding in bringing about an appropriate change in applying those teachings to our life, to become students of theosophy from the teachings which we receive from those who have transcended the evolution in the human kingdom, and with the help of that knowledge which we receive from the hierarchy at the higher level, to use that knowledge for transmission it to the lower levels of hierarchy. That is perhaps the role which we as theosophists are expected to play by studying secret doctrine and the commentaries like the Divine Plan, which make us give us a comprehensive understanding of what is there in the divine mind or universal mind. So that must reflect in our individual mind in order to understand the ideal which is there for us to realize and to bring it on the physical plane. It is is on the monadic level, but the expression of that monad on the physical level is possible only when we understand the message of HPB conveyed to us through secret doctrine and which has been further brought to larger humanity through the commentaries like the Divine Plan. Therefore, I feel that the study of the secret doctrine and the commentaries like the Divine Plan will greatly help us to understand the divine scheme which is there for a great uplift of the present humanity to higher levels of consciousness. Here I will stop, perhaps for further discussion, if any, from the audience.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any question or if anybody wants to add, they're most welcome.
I have not dealt with any particulars of the divine plan. Perhaps that we can do sometime later whenever there is time. Today, my uh, purpose was how the study of divine plan will lead us to better understanding of secret doctrine.
Yes, thank you, brother. Yes, we will take that specific topics. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question? So, brother, since there is no one, I think you dealt with the topic very nicely,
You
and
sir?
people will be motivated. our members will be motivated to go through this book, The Divine Plan by Geoffrey Barborka. And so with that, we'll come to the end of this meeting, and we'll end the meeting with the universal prayer.
Thank you, sir.
O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Thank you to all for attending the meeting and listening patiently to brother. Thank you, brother
Sir,
Tendulkar ji, for a very nice exposition. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Meeting is closed.